Hello, everyone. I'm Brian Reynolds, the Chancellor of the Archdiocese of Louisville. We welcome you to our podcast series, What's New in ArchLou? This show highlights the people and ministries of the Archdiocese of Louisville, the Catholic Church in Central Kentucky. Join us each month as we welcome guests to discuss our local church and invite you to get more involved as you deepen your own engagement with the Catholic faith. This program is brought to you by the ArchLou Podcast Network. Well, when I was growing up, they said when you got to July 4th, the summer was already half over. I cannot believe it's July, but we made it to July. But we're also celebrating something special with this show. This is our 50th episode of What's New in ArchLou. That's hard to believe. We go back that many shows and so forth. We got a whole future lineup ahead, so this is not the end, but it's always a good opportunity to celebrate a marker. So, joining me today for our 50th episode is Kanobia Russell-Blackmon, who's our Chief Communications Officer for the Archdiocese. She's been a guest on this show a number of times. But because it's our 50th, this is a payback time, folks. Kanobia is going to actually interview me rather than me interviewing her.
Yes.
So, welcome, Kanobia.
Thank you.
And take it away.
Thank you, Brian. Like you said, this is a milestone. We're celebrating our 50th episode of What's New in ArchLou. And you've had the honor of interviewing agency directors, staff members, leaders of organizations over the past 50 episodes. And today, we get to hear your story. Okay. So let's jump right on in.
I'm a little nervous.
Oh, don't be nervous. So let me introduce Dr. Reynolds to you. Dr. Reynolds was born in New Jersey. He grew up in New York and Connecticut with 8 brothers and sisters. He has served as a consultant, trainer, and author in church ministry for close to 50 years. Brian is the recipient of several national recognitions for his work, including a papal medal from Pope Francis. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
So he has been married to his wife, Kathy, for 45 years. They have 2 children and 2 grandchildren. So in addition to what I've already shared, tell us more about yourself.
Thanks, Kanobia. Well, my life isn't particularly spectacular, but best thing I tell you is since 1990, I've been working in this archdiocese and living here in Louisville. So Kentucky is my chosen home. My daughter, who was born here, likes to remind me that she's a native, but I'm not, because Kentuckians often talk about that. But over the last 37 years, my children were raised here, went through our Catholic schools here, and now have professional lives on their own outside of the city. My wife worked in parish ministry here and just retired from 30 years at St. Xavier High School. So this is our home. This is our chosen home. And among the best decisions of my whole life was coming to Louisville. So the best I could tell you is this is our space.
That's pretty good. Yeah, and it's a great city.
Yeah, it's a great city.
Definitely. So you've been working in the Archdiocese, of course, for the past 37 years, 25 years as Chancellor.
Right.
So explain to us, what is the Chancellor?
Chancellor is one of those titles that people tend to recognize the word, but then they often say, by the way, can I ask you, what does that mean? Because Chancellor sounds like a something in a royal family role or in a government thing, and it's not quite like that. In the church, the Chancellor officially is what's called the chief archivist or notary, which means he or she has to track, record, and preserve the acts of the church. That doesn't mean just collecting documents, but it also includes that. But making sure that the actions, particularly those of the Archbishop, when he appoints something or makes the decision, gets documented and kept appropriately in our record keeping. In most dioceses, including ours, the Chancellor also acts kind of like a parallel in the external world of Chief Operating Officer. So I give general oversight to planning, personnel, and financial matters. We have great experts who head those departments, but my job is to kind of oversee those things in the general sense. I think the most important thing I do in all that is retaining and supporting our leadership staff, because it's not about me. It's as an overarching role, I do that. There's all sorts of other tasks that a bishop, archbishop, may give to the Chancellor. Every diocese has to have one. And as you said, I've been doing it for a long time. My new favorite role as Chancellor is hosting What's New in ArchLou, 50 episodes.
That's right.
So it's kind of fun.
That's true. definitely a big job, but just even in just watching you in the Archdiocese, to me, from the outside looking in, it's a ministry to you. Would you say?
Absolutely. The church, of course, has characteristics of a business. You know, we have employees and budgets and buildings and programming and things we have to do. But the reason we do those things comes down to Jesus Christ. And my job is to do the administrative acts, so the work, particularly of our clergy, are freed to provide for the pastoral care of the people, what we call pastoral care of the souls. So it is a ministry. It's often behind the scenes. It's administrative tasks, but the reason we do it is ministry. The reason we do it is for the sake of the faith community. And so, yes, it's a ministry. Yeah.
Yes. So, as I mentioned, that you are from the Northeast.
Mm-hmm.
So, how did you actually end up in Louisville?
That could be its own show, I think. But anyway, yeah. Before I came to Louisville 37 years ago, it seems like even longer than that. So, in a lot of ways, my professional life, my work life has been in Louisville. But during the late 70s and all through the 1980s, I was a trainer and a consultant, traveling most of the time. I traveled about 180 days a year. Great opportunities to serve the church in about 100 different dioceses. Got to teach in Europe in the summer. Got to do a lot of workshops in Canada, all different kinds of things. And one of the places I often visited was the Archdiocese of Louisville. And after numbers of trips here doing various trainings and resourcing consulting work for the Archdiocese, Archbishop Kelly invited me to join his staff. And for me and for Kathy, my wife, this was an opportunity to get off the road, I guess, find a community to raise our family, have that kind of a fresh start. We had just started having children, and that was really a monumental decision, but it really was about an invitation for a work and kind of personal life change.
Okay. I always want to throw in a question for you
Sure.
here about Louisville. What do you like most about Louisville since moving here?
Oh,
After
my
all
goodness.
these years you've been here, what stands out to you?
Well, as I said before, I've traveled and at least done presentations and spent time in 49 of the 50 states and a number of countries. We chose Louisville partially from the invitation, but we chose it and then have stayed for our lives because this is a family-friendly community. The community is small enough that people know each other, large enough to have lots of opportunities and things to do. We like sports, we like music, we like the arts. We like the fact the variety of neighborhoods. You get to meet people and know people. So that part of it is just the community sense that Louisville and Kentucky is also part of that. Our diocese is 24 counties in Kentucky, but our lives here in Louisville is a branch out into all of Kentucky. We spent, as we raised our family, most summers were some state park, some point, learning all about the history and the activities of this fine state. So, for me, family-friendly, community environment, and then the church. There's 190 dioceses or something in the United States, and as I said, I've been visited at least many of them. Louisville, even in those days when I first started working here, had a church that was a large umbrella. There's lots of different ways communities gather, lots of different expressions of the Catholic faith, and I really liked that. So the church was also inviting.
I think another thing about your position right now, especially that you've been in Louisville, is you've worked for 3 archbishops.
Yeah, that's right.
And you've just seeing how they represented just a different era in the church over those years. So I want to know what you know about these 3 archbishops. First, starting with Archbishop Thomas Kelly.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about him?
I knew Archbishop Kelly before he came to Louisville because I was a young youth worker in the Catholic Church, and he was working at the Bishops' Conference in Washington. So this is about 1980, so it was a while ago. We were on a committee, and we got to know each other a little bit there. So that's where some of it began. But Archbishop Kelly was a man of great vision for the church and the church in the United States. He had served at the national level for a good number of years before he became the archbishop here. He had a nickname called the Man with a Plan because planning was a real significant part of his leadership. He wanted things to be clear and direct and direction setting was part of his efforts. So man with a plan. He's a Dominican, so he's a wonderful preacher. That's the charism of Dominicans, is a preacher, and so he was a storyteller, and he saw the goodness in everyone. Everybody has their faults. All of our archbishops, all of our priests, all of our lay ministers, we all have our strengths and weaknesses. His was a person who could see goodness.
Oh, well, what about Archbishop Joseph Kurtz?
When Archbishop Kurtz came in, he came from back in Pennsylvania via a few years in Knoxville. He was a strategic thinker, and he always wanted to do more. I think the challenge he would give all of us around here was he'd make sure we were continually searching for the best practice. And that became his leadership style, I think, with us, is shaping this church to do our best.
And currently, under our current Archbishop, Archbishop Shelton Fogg, how would you describe him?
Yeah, my boss. So I got to be careful about this. No,
That's right.
Archbishop Shelton Fogg is, more than anything else, a man of deep faith. He has an enormous pastoral heart. And as people have got to know him over the few years he's been here already, people sense, not just hear and see, but they sense through him his joy of his relationship with Jesus, his love for the church, his deep compassion. And as I work with him, and I meet with him most days, and when we don't work together, we end up talking most days, he's always trying to figure out where is their pain and how we can try to address it.
Okay. And I would just say, like, each archbishop had a unique gift that they brought to the Archdiocese of Louisville. How has that helped you grow in your leadership role in the Archdiocese and even in your faith?
Wow. There's a lot there, Kanobia. Thanks. Yeah, well, they all have. If I take those three pieces, planning was one of the things that I did as a resource to dioceses around the country. So it was a natural connection for me and Archbishop Kelly. I had the privilege of being part of the eulogy at his funeral years ago, and in there I talked about the fact that he always wanted to set direction, and so forth. So I endorsed from him the planning thing again as part of it. Archbishop Kurtz kept calling us to see things beyond our borders because he while he was here, he served as treasurer, vice president, and president of the Bishops' Conference. He kept seeing the national and international church, so it would remind us that we're not an island. We should see the big picture there. Archbishop Shelton is I think, a lot of times you'll hear bishops referred to by their priests and by others as their spiritual father, and I think that's the image of him. He's such a caring man. He's also very clear on his leadership strengths. He's not one to hold back from saying it's time to do something different. But his starting point is the pastoral heart.
Pastoral heart, yes. I have to agree with you on that one.
Yeah, well, you've known him a long time.
Yes,
you know him longer than I have. Yes, you have. Yes, right.
Well, switching gears to just lay ministry within the Archdiocese, over your years that you've been here and in your tenure, what developments have you seen over the past few years in lay ministry?
Well, the Archdiocese is today, not because of me, but I've been part of it for the last close to 40 years now. It has changed dramatically, and one of the ways is in lay ministry. When I first came here, half of the department heads were priests. Today, there's only 2 of the department heads are priests, 2 out of 20. In those days, we had 40 departments. That's another story, but 20 of them were clergy. As the role of priests, as there's been fewer priests, and as the role of priests were redirected to provide care to parishes first, Archbishop Kurtz used to say, healthy parishes make a healthy diocese. And all 3 of the bishops I've worked with here have focused on, let's build up the parish. So the priests were do less administration and more focus on parish. And it's because, in part, of a decision by the leadership, but also because more qualified lay people surfaced. So what's happened in my time is laity have been called forth, properly trained, and appointed by the bishop to serve in many, many, many different capacities. At the time when I came, the head of the worship office was a priest, and today it's Dr. Karen Shado. The head of Catholic Charities was Father Tim Hogan. Now it's Lisa Jacko Crutcher, and I could go through the whole list. The head of schools was Father Tom Doran. Now it's Amy Nall. I mean, there's so many examples of lay leaders in positions, and it's not that that's an improvement or a decline. It's a change, though, because I think lay leaders ask a different set of questions sometimes and bring a different set of experiences to their role. So lay ministry has changed because it has changed the church, and the church has changed lay people. In that process, there's a lot more training of lay leaders. In compensation has changed dramatically, thank goodness. The Archdiocese had employees, throughout its lifetime of 200 years, but it wasn't until the 1980s we had things like a pension plan. These are just changes. So compensation's changed in the last years. Had to deal with questions. I remember when I first came and they were trying to talk about what kind of insurance do employees need differently than what was going on now. Things like that, which is a different set of questions for us to tackle. So lay ministry has become more of a profession. It's a ministry, but it's also a profession, better trained, and more opportunities.
It almost seems like it's actually helped the church by having lay ministers or having lay people in these ministry roles.
No question.
Yes,
I think the church has been blessed with the qualities, competencies of these men and women who are serving in lay ministry, and real partnerships with our priests. I mean, it's not a replacement. It's a different set of roles they've assumed, but it's also to free the priest to focus on the sacramental care, the pastoral care of the people.
That's true. And I've actually seen that trend as well in other dioceses and archdioceses. Are you also seeing that trend and is seeing an increase in lay people holding those positions?
Yeah, even just taking my own as chancellor. When I first here, and I would go to national meetings of my counterparts, a lot of them were clergy, a lot of them monsignors, heads of diocesan pastoral service offices or chancellors and so forth. Now, many of those positions are held by lay ministers. A couple of us have been around a long time, but it's still a growing new roles in the church, new leadership opportunities there. It's a national thing. It's been held by the National Association of Lay Ministry, the National Association of Personnel Services. So there's lots of support services now that exist the church didn't have a couple of decades ago.
Mm-hmm. I would say in your position too, as being a leader in the Archdiocese of Louisville, I know you have many stories.
I got lots of them.
You've seen the good times, the bad times, the challenges. So let's talk about the best moments. So share some of the best moments you've seen as a chancellor or just as a leader in the Archdiocese.
When some people ask me what's my favorite part of my job, I like to say I get to see the whole picture. By responsibilities, I don't focus in on one little piece of our ministry. I get to look at the whole church. I get to see. I'm not the only one, but I have visited every parish in the diocese. I've visited every school in the diocese. I've worked with every agency in the diocese. I've seen the variety of things that have changed over these decades I've been able to serve here. So I get to see the whole picture. In the early years, I started to say before, when I first came, we had 40 departments in 12 buildings. Today we have 20 departments in 4 buildings. That administrative thing, that was it sounds bureaucratic, I guess, but it was a wonderful opportunity to practice effectiveness and efficiency are the 2 words I used. To have us focus better use of our resources, better stewardship, kind of refocus those efforts. I loved in 2008, it's a long time ago now, our bicentennial celebration as an archdiocese. Mass with the Pope in New York, with the other dioceses celebrating their bicentennials. Our own Mass at the Slugger Field here, but all sorts of celebrations. We talked about offices and agencies. I was part of directing the processes to build the Maloney Center and the Pastoral Center, which were great to take underused facilities in the diocese and expand them, improve them, and use them. Lay ministry is some of the best. Training programs, the lay assembly that we've started, leadership institutes. So there's a lot of activity, again, engaging leadership, preparing lay and clergy for effective work in their various roles. Although that's all the best stuff.
More, I would say, and more to come.
Oh yeah,
Definitely more to come.
And you're right. That sounds all bureaucratic. I have
Yes.
stories behind every one of those. Some are pretty funny, but they would take too long, Kanobia, for our show. But lots of stories about things. Yeah.
And of course, there are challenges.
Yes.
So, what would you say would be some of your biggest challenges that you've had to face?
Unfortunately, that's an easy question to answer for me. There's two areas. By far, the most challenging times in the diocese for me, and also I think still to this day, is addressing the crime of child abuse. The fact that child abuse occurs so often in our society is frightening and scary and outrageous. The fact that it is promulgated even in the church by some of our own leaders have been involved in abuse, and the pain, spending time with victim survivors and the pain they have experienced, helping the diocese work through the new revelations we had. The stories have all been told. Some of what had happened in the past the church knew about and didn't properly address. I'll tell you that some of what we learned 25 years ago, when the abuse crisis was so public here locally, was new information for me and for many others. So addressing that, and to this day, I'm very proud we have a very good safe environment program to try to prevent abuse. It's been well recognized. But the fact that we have to do that, and the fact that there's men and women who spent their lives dealing with the childhood experiences of abuse is the toughest work. But my work in it, as tough as that is, doesn't compare at all to the difficulty the victim survivors have had. So I don't hold that out as a burden to me, but it is a burden for us in the church as well. The other one is, we're doing it right now in the Archdiocese. We're involved in parish planning. The diocese has been involved in parish planning since 1808. We're always opening churches, merging churches, expanding churches, closing churches. But every time you do that, and we've done it 3 times in my time here, including this time now, people have a hard time picturing changing the future church, because people like to experience as they have now. And walking people through the changes of organizational life of the church is a challenge. Those would be the 2 things.
What helps you get through those challenges?
Well, very good question. Honestly, my day starts with prayer. I need to center myself on why I do this work, and it's really important to me to spend some quiet time alone with the Lord and with personal meditation and reflection, and sometimes good exercise in there, so I can stay centered. That's part. Second is how I get through this is knowing it's not about me. It's a team. There's lots of people. Our archbishops are the decision makers that I've worked with over the years, but we have many councils, committees, qualified staff who guide these decisions and these processes. So I try to remember it's not about me. It's not about just me trying to do it. It's a whole team effort. So that would be I think.
Where do you see the church in the future? How do you see it moving forward?
It's funny. The church has changed a lot over the years. When I can't. It's hard to even remember this. But when I first came here, we didn't have internet in our buildings.
Yes.
We didn't have email in our buildings. We didn't have cell phones.
Text,
so
yes.
communications has dramatically changed how we do ministry, and we're doing here on a podcast that goes out on social media and in an electronic medium. None of this was even imagined 37 years ago when I started. And I remember having conversations with leadership at the time and our finance people and the Archbishop Kelly at the time about the need for more computers and the internet. Archbishop Kelly resisted that, saying, "Oh no, we just use good typewriters." So I remember those things and some great stories about trying to make decisions about when do we break open the electronic world, the media world. I think what's changing is that the biggest thing that's changed. Well, that's how operationally we changed.
Okay.
The church has changed dramatically because cultural diversity has now brought us to a different place of who the people of God are.
Mm-hmm.
When we think about masses that occurred in the Archdiocese in 1990, they were all in English. Mm-hmm. There was one German mass a year for the German Fest. And they were just beginning to have a Vietnamese mass. Today, many Sundays, we have mass in 8 languages in Louisville, Kentucky. That's a huge change.
It's amazing. Yes.
In just a couple of decades. Other parts of the country, like New York and Los Angeles, they're used to having dozens of different language masses. But that was not our story here. So watching us break into cultural diversity, I think, has been so. Communication has changed how we operate. Cultural diversity has changed who we are.
And it's nice to see the different diversity within the Archdiocese.
Oh, it's
and
rich.
Just how it's growing the rich, yes.
Yeah,
exactly.
when we now get together as a church to worship, whether it be the Chrism Mass or ordinations or big celebrations,
yes.
Different languages in the worship, in the music, in the readings. But more important, the people you get to meet, because their stories of faith are different based on their cultural upbringing, their cultural heritage.
Yes.
I didn't grow up with as much cultural diversity as my children did. And my grandchildren are growing up in a world entirely different, very diverse. So I think that's good for Americans. It's good for Catholics. It's different. People have to get used to that. But I think that's been so. When I look for the future, I think both those things are going to continue. For the future, I think that was part of your question, was the future, I think it's going to be more diversity. Family life's changed. How people worship changes, how people celebrate, connect.
Yes.
I think, and hopefully that diversity, as we look to the future, will help build deeper sense of community. But you have to learn how to dialogue and to communicate and spend time with each other. You don't build community by acknowledging other people exist. You have to spend time with each other. That means we got to pray and play together.
True.
So I think as I look to the future, I think that's a part of it. Yeah.
I do like the fact that communication has evolved and is connecting people in ways it has not, connected before. So I do see that growing, especially here with the podcast. So, like you said, we're celebrating a milestone, the 50th episode. So over the past 50 episodes that you have hosted, what has been your experience?
This has been fun. We've had great guests, and that's what makes up a podcast.
Yes.
Good guests, important and meaningful topics. I think that the people are curious about. We've tried to address real questions people want to know, not just an interesting topic, but something that's on their mind. I think some of our most popular shows have been why do Catholics do that, or why Catholics don't do that.
Yes.
We've had repeated stories of those. I'm shocked. When we began this, I had no idea that some of our number of listeners and viewers to one particular podcast, many of them have gone over 100,000, 120,000 people. I can't believe that. So reaching out, and not just locally, but I meet people all the time who say, weren't you on that show? Or I heard you do that. When I walk in my neighborhood at night, neighbors say, when's that next show coming out? So it's again, not about me, but it's an imagery here of communication.
Yes.
So I think we had a great show with teenagers on one day, who had just met with the Pope Francis. We've had a show about Catholic sports, which, of course, that's a big part of our local community. And so people wanted to all know about the history of that and how does that get done. People learn about religious men and women we've had on the show. So they meet people through the show. and they meet and they hear answers to questions they have. And that's my favorite part of doing that. I think it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's been nice just hearing stories of faith.
Yeah,
Hearing what people are doing in the community. And it's just our way, I think, here to share our faith.
Yes.
So it's been really good.
Yeah,
Yes.
it really is. It's a lot of faith sharing. And many guests have said to us, this, after the show, they found that meaningful, having the opportunity to in just a 30-minute period to share their faith there.
That's true.
That's right.
So from podcaster to chancellor, your time is just a lot of work. So you don't have a whole lot of time. But I do want to ask this final question.
Okay.
What is some of your hobbies? What do you like to do with your family? What are some of your hobbies? Just to get to know you personally.
Sure. That's probably not as interesting to our viewers, but I'll tell you a little bit about it. Yeah, my family's first. Okay. I'm blessed with, you did in the introduction, Kathy and I have been married for 45 years. We have 2 children, a son and a daughter. My son's married with been the source of my 2 grandchildren through God's blessing. So I love being with my family. I love playing. Grandpa's the best new title I have. I have a 6-year-old grandson and a 2-year-old grandson. That's the best. I have some extended family as well over the years, but as life has aged us on, we're in different stages of life. So my immediate family, that's the best. Okay. Good friends. But for personal hobbies, there are things that are so opposite what I do in public, which is a lot of talking and meetings. I do very quiet things. I love my vegetable garden. Grow lots of different kinds of vegetables. Best thing I grow is potatoes and garlics, but lots of tomatoes too. So vegetable gardening. I make wine. I do about 10 different types of wine a year, about 350 different bottles total. Make wine in my basement. I don't sell it, but we give it away. We give it out. We do baskets for raffles just for fun. So making wine, very introverted activity, and I'm pretty lousy at it, but I play golf. So those 3 things, which are quieter things, gardening, winemaking, golf, are quiet, more introverted things. And I think a lot of people, I'm one of those, we recreate in our opposite. And so that's what I do.
That sounds like good hobbies, definitely.
Yeah. I like to cook too.
Oh, okay. Well, that's true. Very good cook at that.
Thank you. All right, Kanobia, I'm going to have to wrap us up because you've been interviewing me, but I watch our time, and we got to wrap up this podcast.
I have more questions.
Yeah, I bet, and I have more answers.
Yes, indeed.
Stories. Kanobia, I really enjoyed this.
Yes, me too.
I know I didn't answer every question you probably had on your mind, but I want to thank you for interviewing me today. I want to thank you for your service to the diocese as our communications director with a whole world, from podcasting to the record to public relations and lots of other things.
Thank you for your yes. I mean, your yes to being chancellor and to being a leader in this archdiocese. We're blessed to have you.
Well,
definitely.
We have a good team. We're a good team.
Yes.
You and I and others are part of our team.
Yes.
That's great. So thank you for that. Thank you to our viewers as well and our listeners for joining us today for this month's July 2026 issue of What's New in ArchLou. Tune in again next month.